Donald Trump has a very different way of going about international relations to anything we've seen before. A, he does a lot of it on Twitter, as we saw here. B, he seems to have a general philosophy of, even if they're bad guys historically, Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin, whoever it may be, he wants to get in the room and he wants to have a cordial relationship and see where it leads. It's interesting.
I think it's fascinating, right. He's done things, you just brought up North Korea and the DMZ. No president's ever done that, and I think he was waiting there for Kim Jong-un to come. It was very interesting seeing the way that was set up. And the fact that he's doing it differently, we weren't making any progress before.
What is the Donald Trump deal-making way?
Well, I think, personal rapport certainly helps in any deal. And Donald is interpersonally, he's a gifted guy, and he's also very good on judging the pulse of the situation. I think in New York, that was very noticeable for the first time I met him. He really had his finger on the pulse and knew what people were thinking. And I just think the novel way that he's handling these kind of issues really brings a solution as possible.
The trouble is there's no solution yet, is there?
No.
North Korea has to get rid of its nuclear weapons, of its nuclear ambitions. The accusation levelled against him is that this is reality television, this is showbiz, this is the big picture image, but actually the big picture in detail is it's not going to have an effect in North Korea other than to boost the leader.
Yeah, I mean, you can always level arguments like that, but I think that he's bringing something new to the table, and both of the leaders are talking in a way that they haven't talked before. So if something hasn't worked for 25 years, you get a new president like Donald J. Trump bringing something entirely different to the table. And I think it just opens up a whole new array of possibilities. And one of them may be positive, the denuclearization of North Korea and the energizing of that economy, and still the preserving of Kim Jong-un's power structure, which I think he doesn't want to upset that.
This ongoing debate about how important the special relationship is, what it actually means as we head out of the European Union and so on. What is your take on where we are? It seems like Donald Trump had a very successful state visit here.
Trade is pretty phenomenal right now. I mean, we're the first and fifth largest countries in the world. We have about $1 trillion in bilateral investment. Our trade since Donald Trump got in, just from 17 to 18, is up 16%. So it's from 235 to about 265 billion, and that can go straight up. President Trump, when he was here, said that he would like double or triple, and there are a lot of skeptics that think that can't happen. But I wouldn't bet against the president. And I know that this free trade agreement will receive his, immediate attention. He's announced it 50 times.
So when people are cynical about it and say, look, he's an America first guy, he's going to put America first. I mean, I don't actually see anything wrong with that. I mean, why wouldn't the president of a country put his country first? Well, I don't see any problem with that. I wish we'd put our country...
Unless it has a disadvantage for the UK.
Well, that is for us to battle and us to negotiate. My whole issue with the European Union is we haven't put ourselves first enough. We've been too worried about what the European Union may do to us, which is certainly not something Trump would care about. But in terms of that cynicism which exists, you know Donald Trump well. Do you think when he says these things about his relationship with this country, he means them?
Absolutely. And I think everybody puts himself first at the end of the day, including all the voters. I mean, they're looking at financial issues that affect them personally. So this is not unusual. But having a great ally like the UK, our most important ally, and preserving that through a trade agreement, through all of our military and security arrangements, I think is number one.
What do you make of? I mean, most people think Britain's become a total basket case in the last 3 years. That Brexit is basically...
Sorry, who thinks that Britain's become a basket case?
Almost everybody outside of Britain thinks we've become a basket case.
No.
They think Britain has sent us...
Ambassador, do you think Britain's become a basket case?
They think Britain has been sent bonkers by Brexit. I mean, and I think there's a certain argument it has. People have just lost their minds about this. You've been here in the thick of all this. What do you think of Brexit, of Brexit mania? Have we all gone nuts?
No, I think you're realizing how powerful you actually are. And this, I've said this before, I think if you're going to design a country that has all the ingredients for success. They're all here, every one of them, language and culture, and you can go down the list. And so this is a great country. It's about to take off and reach a new level of prosperity and security. I really think that.
Who do you think, because obviously we're in the process of electing a new Prime Minister under the guise of electing a new leader of the Conservative Party, is there someone, we saw Donald Trump when he came over, the president, you know, talking warmly about Boris Johnson. We also saw him talking warmly about Jeremy Hunt. Yeah. Do you think he has a preferred candidate? In your diplomatic role, are you allowed to say?
I'm allowed to say, but I think that both these candidates are really great choices, and it's going to be a difficult choice for the British people to decide whether it's Jeremy or whether it's a Boris. I think both of them could do a great job because the president wants to get this done. So I think who's ever in power will be able to make a fast and good and great deal for the UK.
You made a few headlines, Mr. Ambassador, when you gave an interview in which you were sort of hinting that the NHS would be on the table in any negotiation. I then spoke to President Trump. You were there for the interview in the Churchill Ballrooms. Let's play a clip from the chat I had with the President. No leader, it seems to me, would allow Britain to effectively sell the NHS as part of a trade deal. Would you, as the American president, see that as a deal breaker if none of the NHS was on the table?
I don't see it being on the table. Somebody asked me a question today, and I say everything's up for negotiation because everything is, but I don't see that being, that's something that I would not consider part of trade. That's not trade.
Now, what was interesting to me was, I reckon something went on here because you went on the BBC and you're a very smart guy and you just floated this little idea, which then caught fire. Donald Trump was then asked about it at the press conference and doubled down and said, yeah, we think everything's on the table. And then between him finishing that press conference and getting to me in the war room, somebody had clearly got to him, or various people had, I think, to say, you can't say this because everyone's going nuts, both Conservative and Labour, everyone's going nuts.
We don't want our NHS to be sold off. Clear
up the mystery. What happened with all this from the moment you said what you said, then the press conference, and then what he said to me?
Well, I don't know exactly what happened, but Susanna's got it right. You know, I don't think the president or my statement that I made earlier was anything but the goods that the National Health Service uses, the 1,000 purveyors that supply all the material that's used every day by the National Health Service in the line of its duty, whether it's, all the equipment and surgical and
many of which are already American.
They are.
So this is one of the things I think people don't understand about it. There are lots of things the NHS already buys from American pharmaceutical companies. The concern is that that's just the thin end of the wedge, and that if we're not careful, if we do start to sell more to American companies, they will be very aggressive, as American companies can be, and they will want to get a much bigger slice of the NHS pie. And that may not be good for us.
I think I don't think he had anything in mind other than supplying the latest and greatest technology and equipment and supplies the NHS uses, which goes down to the patient and the users of the product, the services.
Were you surprised by the outcry that greeted your comments?
A little bit, but now I fully understand the sovereignty of this entity and how important it is in the life of all Brits. And so,
well, it's a very different healthcare. The healthcare system is very different.
It takes a while to understand that in a way.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
It's a little bit hard for an outsider to see it, but now I fully am aware.
We take the NHS. We're very proud of it because it's a very unique healthcare system around the world.
It is.
You know, if you have an accident in the middle of London today, you're going to get world-class treatment for nothing.
For free. We've paid our national insurance.
Very different though. If it happens in America, I fell over myself and had to have emergency treatment, and there's someone waiting there with a bit of paper. Can you pay your bill? Which is a different mentality to us. I've got to ask you about Independence Day is coming. Very sad day for this country, as I'm sure you can imagine. But there's a massive soccer match, soccer to you, football to us, on Tuesday, which in many ways is this is the precursor to Independence Day.
Well, women's soccer has always been great. It just hasn't been followed. And the women's game is ruthless and tough.
And big in America, isn't it?
Big in America. And, we had one of our quarterbacks' wife was a former female soccer player, and she was an enforcer. And so when I heard her talk about the women's game, it gave me a whole new insight into what actually goes on in that game. And so you've got some of the best athletes in the world they happen to be female. And so you're going to be seeing something absolutely spectacular tomorrow.
The women still only get 38 cents in the dollar earnings compared to the male players.
Geez, I don't know, but that doesn't seem right, does
It's
it?
not right, is it?
No.
So that argument, I think, is that's completely unfair to me, because
Right.
they're bigger stars. They get just as big, if not bigger, ratings. They're better players comparative to the other
Not even
teams
about
they
equality,
play.
is it?
Yeah. It's wrong,
It
isn't
should be about more than that.
So, well, you know, it's once again, I think the game you'll see is the game becomes more and more popular and bigger followers. They're negotiating ability of those female players.
I'm asking you, because you own one of the
mean, it's
biggest
all,
football franchises in the world, of course.
Right, and it's all negotiating leverage.
Yeah.
And as your ratings go up, your ability to negotiate.
Who's going to
higher
win?
I think the U.S. will probably win, but
Who are you supporting, Mr. Ambassador? I mean, you're living here as a guest in our country. Are you a team?
I wish
are you
both
a team
teams.
USA?
I wish both teams well until the
Are
final.
you going to be doing?
You're always repping
Are
the
you
USA,
doing the Megan
aren't you?
Rapinoe? Will you be doing one of these down at Winfield House if you win? One of the struts?
You got that down.
Yeah.
A little higher with the head.
It's going to be a massive game.
Yeah.
We wish America to
Both
have a
teams
great
well.
game, and we hope you beat you 4-0. You can't put it any fairer than that, Mr. Ambassador.
Yeah, 4-0. Well, we'll see. But anyway,
Ambassador, good
good luck
see
for
you.
both teams. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
it should be
Susanna.
cracking day, and
Yeah.
happy Independence Day. I'll say that through gritted teeth. I still find, if we'd only kept the monarchy, it would have been a chance of King Piers by now, presiding over the Americans. That would have been a good thought, wouldn't it, Mr. Ambassador?
Susanna, you want to comment on that?
Thank you, America, for saving
I
us from
think
that.
the US ambassador just gave a bigger eye roll than Susanna Reid has ever given on this show.